Can Sean O'Malley keep up his winning ways at UFC 276? Sean O'Malley is going up against his biggest test yet in Pedro Munoz on Saturday. And in this video, we're going to break down this matchup to see if Sean O'Malley could continue with his winning ways. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA, I make opinionated MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. Sean O'Malley has turned himself into a star. The way that he's able to be so entertaining in the octagon with his great style, as well as have a great personality outside of the octagon, really just turn him into a star. And basically anyone who follows MMA knows Sean O'Malley. But after a few impressive victories as of late for Sean O'Malley, he's by far going up against his biggest test in a while in Pedro Munoz. Probably his biggest test since he faced Chito Vera. But although Pedro is probably out of his prime at this point, and although he is coming off a 2-fight losing streak, I still think it's pretty clear that Pedro is a big test for Sean. And when you look at the last 2 fights that Pedro has been in and has lost, you talk about guys like Dominic Cruz and Jose Aldo, and those guys are of course the top of the division. So it's not necessarily like Pedro is losing to bums out there. But now let's break this fight down. So starting with Sean O'Malley, it's pretty clear that he's very good on the feet. He has a really nice jab, uppercut, hook, cross. He has nice kicks as well. He can kick to the lower leg, he can kick to the body with a front kick or a side kick, he can kick the head if he wants as well. But mostly on the feet, what Sean does do is utilize his hands and utilize his boxing. Now in terms of his stand-up defense, I would say he's pretty defensively sound on the feet. I would also say he has a relatively good chin, although we haven't necessarily seen it tested all that much. Now in terms of his takedown defense, I would say it's okay, but once again, we haven't necessarily seen it tested all that much, so who knows how good it really is. In terms of his ground game, he definitely has decent jiu-jitsu, and in my opinion, it's very underrated. Once again, due to the fact that we haven't necessarily seen it all that much. In terms of his wrestling, of course, he's not necessarily a guy that's going to look for takedowns or is necessarily all that good at wrestling, but of course, he does have that jiu-jitsu. Now, by far, his biggest weakness is the durability or lack of durability to his legs. Now, of course, this is something that happened a while ago, but it kind of just makes sense based off his skinny frame that his legs wouldn't necessarily hold up all that well. And of course, what I'm referring to is when Chito Vera kicked Sean O'Malley's legs, and I guess he hit a certain nerve in his leg, and one of his legs just completely shut down basically. And of course, when that happens once, there's always a capability that it can happen again, and especially when you talk about a guy like Pedro Munoz, who's known for his lower leg kicks, this could potentially be an issue for Sean. But at the same time, Sean has made a point of saying that his legs aren't necessarily all that fragile, and maybe it is a little bit overblown when people talk about the durability or lack of durability in Sean's legs. So I guess in terms of that, we have to wait and see what happens in this fight against Pedro, but at this point, I would definitely say that's his biggest weakness. But now let's move on to what Pedro does well. Now in terms of Pedro's stand-up, I would definitely say he has some ability in terms of his boxing and in terms of his punches, but he's not necessarily known for that. What he's really known for on the feet is his kicks, and the way that he's able to time up his leg kicks, throw them with a ton of power, and have great accuracy with them, which is something that I touched upon before, but could potentially be a big issue for Sean O'Malley. Now, one thing that I will say about Pedro is he definitely does leave certain openings, but one of the things about Pedro is he's extremely durable, and he does have a phenomenal chin, so even if he does take a couple hits from Sean, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to get knocked out like some of Sean's other opponents. But of course, anyway, Sean isn't necessarily known for that one-punch KO power, he's more so known for his volume. Now in terms of Pedro's takedown defense, I would definitely say he's good at that, but this probably will not come up in this fight against Sean. But if the fight does get taken to the ground, Pedro is definitely very good on the ground, especially in terms of his jiu-jitsu, as he does a really nice job at finding certain positions or certain submissions, and this would definitely be an area of his game where he has an advantage over Sean. Now some of you may be thinking, why doesn't Pedro just take the fight to the ground and take down Sean O'Malley? Which may may be something that Pedro is thinking, but Pedro doesn't necessarily have the best offensive wrestling. So the question is, would he be able to take the fight to the ground? Or would Sean be able to deny all those takedowns and maybe even tie him up a knee when Pedro was shooting and potentially hurt him really badly, or maybe even knock him out due to that? But I definitely think this is going to be a very, very close matchup, as both of these guys definitely have paths to victory in this matchup. But my official prediction for this fight is I think Sean O'Malley is going to win by decision. Now, the reason why I think this is I think on the feet, Sean is just too good and may even piece up Pedro at times. And although I do think that Pedro has an advantage on the ground, I don't necessarily think that he would be able to take Sean down all that consistently. And even if the fight did go to the ground, it's not like Sean knows absolutely nothing about jiu-jitsu or wrestling. He definitely does have some ability in terms of his jiu-jitsu and may be able to get right back to his feet. But the reason why I pick Sean O'Malley by decision and not by knockout is Pedro has just proven to be so durable throughout his whole career that I just do find it a little difficult to see Sean knocking him out. But one thing that I will say is I was very close to picking Sean by TKO, and I could for sure see that happening. But of course, Pedro also has paths to victory in this matchup as well by targeting Sean's legs and maybe hurting them to a point where he would be compromised out there, or even taking the fight to the ground and looking for a submission that way. But this is definitely a very, very big test for Sean, and if he's able to win this matchup either by TKO or just win very decisively on the scorecards, it would definitely be a huge benefit to the rest of his career and prove to a lot of people, and specifically a lot of haters of Sean O'Malley, that he is becoming an elite fighter, or he's already an elite fighter at this point. So this is definitely a huge fight for Sean. But I guess we'll see what happens in this matchup, as one thing that I am confident about is I think this fight will be a very entertaining one, as most of Sean's fights are. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening in this matchup, and we'll see if my predictions for this fight were correct or not. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Sean O'Malley will win this fight by decision, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.